Now, to give an analogy, if you take a thin rubber sheet, say, lay it on a table and put thumbtacks in each corner, then take a big stone and set it on one end of the rubber sheet and say that's your spacecraft, you pick out a point that you want to go to, which could be anywhere on the rubber sheet. Pinch that point with your fingers and pull it all the way up to the craft. That's how it focuses and pulls that point to it. When you then shut off the gravity generators, the stone, or spacecraft, follows that stretched rubber back to its point. There's no linear travel through space. It actually bends space and time and follows space as it retracts. The ship really bends light, which is one of the main components of in which is the first mode of travel, around the surface of a planet. They essentially balance on the gravitational field that the gravity generators put out, and they can ride a wave, like a cork does in the ocean. In that mode they're very unstable and are affected by the weather. In the other mode of travel, where they can travel vast distances, they can't really do that in a strong gravitational field like Earth, because to do that, first of all, they need to tilt on their side, usually out in space, then they can focus on the point they need to with the gravity generator and move on. If you can picture space as a fabric, and the speed of light is your limit, it'll take you so long, even at the speed of light, to get from point A to point B. You can go 100 to 1000 times the speed of light, but by light you still are bound by, you can't exceed it, not in this universe anyway. Should there be other parallel universes, the laws are different, but anyone that's here has to abide by those rules. Interestingly, recent research into Bose-Einstein condensate, BEC, has found that by slowing down a body of atoms, to within a fraction of a degree Kelvin, near absolute zero, they coalesce into a superatom, and when suitably excited by an oscillating field this BEC superatom propagates matter W. AVs. Now, it's only at an early stage of development here on Earth, but it is hoped that one day this technology will produce a tightly focused matter wave beam, much like that of the laser light beam. What is so interesting here, is that if you look at the diagram above of the gravity generators of lasers, its elements look exactly like the rings of optical lasers and magnetic traps used in BEC technology to slow down the atoms, and that these generators emit a beam, one of which is an H for the craft to ride upon. It means that the ETS use a system closely related to the propagation of such matter waves. Inside the reactor, element 115 is bombarded with a proton which plugs into the nucleus of the 115 atom and becomes element 116, which immediately decays and releases, or radiates, small amounts of antimatter. The antimatter is released into a tune tube which keeps it from reacting with the matter that surrounds it. It is then directed toward a gaseous matter target at the end of the tube. The matter and antimatter collide and annihilate, totally converting to energy. The heat from this reaction is converted into electrical energy in a near 100% efficient thermoelectric generator. Element 115 is a super heavy element found on planets usually that has a binary star system. The craft uses 223 grams, cut to a triangular shape, within the reactor structure. In a cloud chamber it was shown to alter, by gravitational forces, the paths of released alpha particles. My comment here is what happens beyond a gaseous matter target. What sort of energy field is established? Is it an electric field? If so, what polarity? Or is it an electromagnetic wave propagation? Or is it a gravitational wave that is being produced? The thing about Lazar's central tube assembly, which he doesn't make mention of, is that it surely must be used as a circular cross-section waveguide for high-frequency waves. From his graphics it looks like an 80 mm tube, and that would relate to an electromagnetic wave in the microwave region, especially if the tube terminated at the top at a smaller diameter. And whatever the target is, hitting it with these microwaves most probably causes the molecules and atoms of the target gases to resonate, as in electron spin resonance. The resonance then pulls the electrons up the energy bands and greatly increases their energy level. My next comment is that, according to Bob Lazar, speaking about one of the propulsion systems used by the UFO he worked on, the craft does not create an anti-gravity field, as some have surmised, it's a gravitational field that's out of phase with the current one. It's the same gravitational wave. The phases vary from 180 degrees to 0 in a longitudinal propagation. So if, by analogy, we assume that the gravitational wave is similarly structured to that of a sinusoidal electromagnetic wave, there is some evidence to suggest that gravity waves are structured as an electromagnetic wave. What Bob Lazar seems to be saying is that by duplicating exactly this wave, and then propagating this duplicated wave back into the original, after altering its phase, so that, in relation to the existing gravity wave force that is operating throughout this planet, the newly created wave matches it or differs from it, then the newly created gravity force can be made stronger or weaker than the existing one. Okay, he is saying that if you created the same current magnetic field combination for the gravity wave, at the same amplitude, but altered the phase to below 90 degree, you would become lighter, and by altering the phase to between 90 degree and 180 degree you would be heavier. Sounds interesting. Is this like selective constructive and destructive interference between two radiating waves? If the shell was constructed not of plain metal but of an supermetal, of an metalless dielectric composition, and the electromagnetic waves being used were of small enough wavelength, radio waves of microwave length being particularly suitable, then just as Lazar has implied, the hull of the CR aft could be used as a lens for focusing the electromagnetic waves? Because with radio waves of very short wavelength it has long been established that they behave somewhat like light waves, in that they have what is termed optical properties, meaning that these waves can be bent or flattened by a suitably constructed lens. Such a lens for a radio microwave is made not of glass but of metallized plates interspaced certain distances apart, which in this case would equate to around 10 to 50 millimeters apart. In this way the hull could be used as a very efficient waveguide, not merely to focus the beams but more advantageously to regulate their shape or to give a predetermined delay between one beam and another. If you look at the figure above, you will see three sections of the bottom of the hull, each having their own unique curvature. Each of these curved sections are uniquely curved because they have different spacing from the wave generators, resulting in a different focal length, to use a photographic term, for the wave propagation. At different focal lengths, the wave's shape will be different as it enters the dielectric waveguide lens. The resultant wave produced by that lens waveguide, when that wave passes through it, will also be different. Couple to this the fact that for every different angle that the waves pass through the dielectric hull, a different effect of refraction will occur to the wave. Consider next that if this craft uses the two outer generators to focus their two microwave beams at some finite point in the distance, it would follow that to approach that same point in space, the two beams will have traversed through a different thickness of the dielectric lens, at a different angle, meaning that the two beams will be shaped slightly differently. It can be controlled how the two waves are shaped, then it is also possible to control their constructive and destructive interference pattern, and hence the strength or weakness of the electric field at the area where the two beams approach each other. And as you already know, the stronger the electric field, the stronger the repulsion, the stronger the acceleration. The above Bob Lazar quotes are taken from Alien Contact by Timothy Good, 1993, page 183 and page 181, respectively. The quote below was taken from an old web page of Bob Lazar's, and for more detailed information see his reactor and microwave analogy web page if you can. The disc is one of 9, given to the American government in an exchange program in the early 1970s. The makers of the craft and providers of the fuel were from the Zeta Reticuli star system. What they exchanged for the technology is not known. A back engineering program began in 1979 of the remaining hardware and technology. Barney and Betty Hill were an American couple who were abducted by extraterrestrials in a rural portion of the state of New Hampshire from September 19 to 20, 1961. It was the first widely publicized report of an alien abduction in the United States. The incident came to be called the Hill abduction and the Zeta Reticuli incident because the star map shown to Betty Hill was the Zeta Reticuli system according to some researchers. Their story was adapted into the best-selling 1966 book The Interrupted Journey and the 1975 television film The UFO Incident. In recent years, plans have been announced for a movie and a TV series based on the incident, although as of 2021 nothing has been produced. Most of Betty Hill's notes, tapes, and other items have been placed in the permanent collection at the University of New Hampshire, her alma mater. In July 2011, the New Hampshire Division of Historical Resources marked the site of the alleged craft's first approach with a historical marker. The Hill story was widely publicized in books and movies. The Greys took humans and breed a hybrid race called the Tall Whites. There is an extraterrestrial race called the Tall White Grey Aliens, Nordics. This race is the origin of a planet near Zeta Reticuli 2. They later moved to a stars near Arcturus. Some stand more than 8 feet tall, and can run 40 miles per hour. They can live 800 years. They are a mixed race between the 7 feet Greys and white humans from Earth. You can say they are advanced humans. They speak like a dog barking or a bird chirping. Their writing is similar to Egyptian hieroglyphics and they have learned English quite easily. They have large blue eyes that wrap partway around their heads, small noses and tiny ears pressed tight to their scalps. Their skin is completely white, like chalk. They all have thin, straight blonde hair. Their hips are shaped like yours, but they walk quite differently since they are used to a stronger gravity pull. They typically can be seen wearing aluminized chalk white jumpsuits resembling a canvas-like fabric with gloves of the same material and an open white motorcycle helmet. What's unusual is the suit emits a 3-inch field of white fluorescent light, the intensity varying from soft to bright, a brightness that can actually hurt the human eye. They are extremely intelligent and process information speed several times faster than humans. They are using about 28% of their brains. They have individual talents, differing intellectual capabilities and physical traits. Some are teachers, some are pilots, some are workers and some are leaders. Normal speech sounds like a dog barking or a meadowlark singing. However, some tall whites can mimic human speech and in fact carry on normal conversations with humans. Some have demonstrated an ability to imitate specific humans so well that the imitation cannot be detected when used over a telephone. They also can use a device that projects speech so that it is heard by humans within their head. This works only over a short range, several feet, and requires the human to turn the head sideways to the tall white. The device is also a language translator. According to its settings from time to time, human was occasionally able to overhear tall whites conversing among themselves as though they were speaking English. They like to recreate, procreate, and their children, considerably shorter in size, are fun-loving, energetic, and inquisitive. The children enjoy hide and seek, but they also like to play catch with soft objects since their bodies are frail, bruising easily. Mothers are highly devoted to their children to the 9th degree, existing solely for the purpose of meeting the needs of their offspring. Although they are highly individualistic, one similar characteristic is they all have white chalky complexions, very white chalky complexions. For this reason, they have been called the tall whites. Every tall white adult carries a pencil-like weapon that can be set to stun, kill, immobilize, or hypnotize humans. It can also administer severe pain, and they frequently use it to discipline people who act in ways that annoy, frighten, or endanger them. The weapon's actions and effects are accomplished by varying the frequency of focused microwaves to interact with specific ions in the human body. Although their technology is quite beyond years at this time, evidence suggests that by other and less tangible measures, wisdom, intelligence, moral stature, they might be quite comparable to ourselves. Among the interesting matching characteristics of the tall whites and the Imdugud. As previously mentioned, the tall whites can grow to be over 7 feet tall. However, most the adults in the first half of their lives usually range in size from 5'10" to 6'5". Their lifespan is 10 times greater than yours, said the government, adding that it takes them 10 times longer to heal, too. They do not age as we do, but at about 400 Earth years, they undergo a second stage of growth, eventually reaching about 8 to 10 feet tall. They then die of organ failure at an age of approximately 800 years. Since on their planet, days are longer, so are their sleeping patterns, usually staying awake for 2 Earth days and then followed by sleeping the same amount of time. However, one incident took place with a tall white he called the Teacher, which revealed they may have come from near the star Arcturus, about 36 light-years away. This is where one of their bases is located. UFO government witnessed 3 different types of spacecraft, ranging in size from a small nuclear-powered scout craft and a large interstellar craft able to travel faster than the speed of light. This large black craft was approximately 70 feet high and 360 feet long. The government said the technology of the small craft was shared with the military, but the large craft remains a mystery. The American generals would do anything to maintain good relations with the tall whites in order to get their technology. The exchange was done on the basis of what would benefit the tall whites, and they sometimes participated in classified meetings, helping with technology development. The military definitely supplied the tall whites with any type of food requested, but noticed them carrying prepared bags of what looked like mushroom pudding. They were plant eaters, as they noticed them collecting seeds on various occasions. They are not meat eaters. That I know for sure, they added. The food that I saw packaged and sealed in plastic bags on the scout craft looked like mushroom pudding. They were told by one of them it was prepared primarily for the children or for when they were out in the desert hiking. I were also told it wasn't a good idea to eat their food as it would have adverse effects on my body. The ball white gray humanoid, the Bayat al-Kurat al-Ta'ala people. They are also called white boys, backstreet boys, space jockeys, powderians, slicks, skinheads, the drivers or pilots. They put these beings in a movie called Prometheus. The CIA and secret space program gave this information to Hollywood to put in movies. They live on 4 planets in the Zeta Reticular 2-star system called Malakak 1, 2, and Ashen 1 and 2, which is 37 light-years away. On Malakak and Ashen, they are both 75% water. On their planets they stayed underwater. The bad greys from Orion and Zeta Reticular, who are controlled by the 6th dimension Draco Reptilians. These bad greys design these bodies for the Reptilians to use as avatars. The tall ball whites are humanoid, extremely pale white, and hairless due to their subterranean nature, with 2 arms and legs, a higher nose bridge, and raised brow ridges. The veins underneath their skin are visible, and have black eyes. The tall ball whites are 9 to 12 feet tall and breathe oxygen just like human beings. They can stay underwater like whales for 4 to 6 hours. They can weigh as much as 400 pounds. They also seem to be extremely strong and resilient. The tall ball whites are outfitted with a biomechanical pressure suit that probably also increased its strength and durability by working as a biotechnological power suit. The engineer's writing system is strikingly similar to Mesopotamian cuneiforms mixed the symbols of the greys that can be found in the Middle East, and their hieroglyphs are also identical to what is found in Egypt, Mesoamerica, and other places on Earth. They were trying to take over the Milky Way galaxy by bringing an insect from the Andromeda galaxy called the Xenomorphs. We will talk about these beings later, because we're gonna get into that in the class. So understand that. We're gonna talk about different galaxies. Like the Black Eye Galaxy, which is 17.2 million light-years away. The Kiripurians greys are a species created from mixing with a race of insect beings created by the ant beings. This insect is called the face hugger. Also known taxonomically as Manu Malanohedria and designated Stage 1 Xenomorph by, and Stage 2 by other sources, is a parasitoid form of the species Xenomorph that hatches from an ovomorph. It is the 2nd stage in the Xenomorph's life cycle, and exists solely to implant a chest burster within a living host creature via their mouth. As such, it has no real offensive capabilities, beyond an ability to spit acid, which is generally only used to gain access to hosts and not for attack, and must rely on stealth, surprise, or their victims being previously immobilized by an attacker to achieve implantation. Notably, a face hugger dies shortly after its task has been completed. Their length is 4 feet 11, 150 centimeters, width 1 foot 5. 45 centimeters, weight 9 pounds 14 and 3/4 ounces 4.5 kilograms. Their skin color beige, distinctions dies after implantation is complete. These things jumped on greys and created this new aggressive type gray called the Kiripurians, greys from the planet Kiripur in Zeta 2. They are also called the harvesters. The Kiripurians are a race of highly intelligent and incredibly technologically advanced hive-mind extraterrestrial beings. They are a threat of universal proportions that seeks to harvest and destroy planets to refuel their ships, to grow, and to perfect their technology at the expense of driving indigenous races to extinction. The Kiripurians, aka harvesters, presented themselves as a threat to the universe itself. Their entire civilization invaded planets, exterminating all indigenous life and harvesting the planet's natural resources. Among the many planets the Kiripurians had invaded was a highly advanced civilization of transsentient beings which they pushed to the brink of extinction. A single survivor of this race gathered other species and survivors from the worlds targeted by the harvesters to form a coalition to oppose them. For thousands of years, the harvesters have been at war against this coalition and continues to remain at a stalemate, as the harvesters could not locate their enemy's planet of origin. Due to this, the harvesters attempt to hunt down a sapient artificial intelligence only known as the Sphere for its vital information on their enemies, especially for possessing the technology that could overcome the Kiripurians. Gray picked this dude up by the government covering it up. Vietnam War veteran Sergeant John Hartley Robertson claimed to have been abducted and experimented on by the harvesters in 1968. John Hartley said he was abducted right out of his helicopter, which crashed over Laos in 1968.